So welcome everyone to Radha Vrindavan Chandra, amazing morning program. How many guests are here for the first time? Wow, we have a lot of new people here. Welcome. And we hope you will take the best part of this experience back with you and unpack it when you go home so you can experience this every day. We are incredibly fortunate to be here in New Vrindavan Dham. And the reasons are many, many, many. Since Prabhupada established his first farm community here in the United States, right here in the middle of the foothills of West Virginia. And we have a special treat for everyone today. One of the early devotees in New Vrindavan, whom everyone I'm sure knows, but it's a little bit unexpected. We're all really excited to have His Holiness Radhanathswami Maharaj here, who will give Bhagavatam class this morning. And listen very carefully to every single word he says, because just one little thing you hear today, if you're able to apply it, will change your life forever. Hare Krishna.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Giri Vadadhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Giri Vadadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Prajachana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Panachari Jamuna Thira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Thira Vanachari Jamuna Thira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakacharsha Astotra Sata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Iskcon founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakacharsha Astotra Sata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananti Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Si Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Natha Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Sri Mathura Dham Ki Jai Sri Dwarka Dham Ki Jai New Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nanyadramad Bhagavata Pradhana Purusheshwarat Atmana Sarva Bhutanam Bhayam Tivram Nivartate Nanyatra Mad Bhagavataha Pradhana Purusheshwarat Atmana Sarva Bhutanam Bhayam Tivram Nivartate Nanyatra Mad Bhagavata Pradhana Purusheshwarat Atmana Sarva Bhutanam Bhayam Tivram Nivartate. Anyatra, otherwise, mat, than myself, Bhagavata, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radhana Purusha Ishwarat, the Lord of both Prakriti and Purusha, Atmana, the soul, Sarva Bhutanam, of all living beings, Bhayam, fear, Tivram, terrible, Nivartate, is forsaken. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I was told to begin with the second paragraph. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving on the brink of spiritual realization, in Brahman realization, they think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman. But actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. One must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Para-Brahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, spirit soul, an eternal servitor of the Lord, if one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient, and therefore these people, or these persons, fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila, without my mercy, nanyatra mad bhagavata. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that he is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhana, because he is the supreme. He is equal to everyone. But to one who surrenders to him, he is especially favorable. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy, and no one is his friend. But to one who surrenders to him, he is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many, many lives, and many times attempt other processes for liberation. Om Agyantimidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juthapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajataham Sahakana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Astatyate Satarine. We are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Text 41. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. I am sincerely grateful to be with this beautiful family of devotees in New Vrindavan. My great honor and fortune to have this opportunity to try to serve you today by speaking on behalf of Srila Prabhupada this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam is bringing us into the pastimes of Lord Kapila Dev. In previous chapters we found how Devahuti and Kardama Muni, two great pure-hearted, transcendental devotees of the Lord, came together in marriage. They were both so absorbed in transcendental meditation and devotional service that they literally forgot everything about material existence. It's hard. It's not easy to have children when you're in that state of consciousness. But yet it was difficult. Hare Krishna. I think this is a way of making me feel like I'm at home in India again. It was the Supreme Lord's desire to be their child, to give knowledge and His supreme grace to the whole world for all time to come. So He inspired them with the desire to have a child. And we have read how Kardama Muni, by his transcendental mystic power, he created an aerial mansion with parks and palaces and unbelievable, incredible heavenly opulences. And gradually they had a child, Lord Kapila Dev. And after taking nice care of him as a child, it was the Lord's will that Kardama Muni goes to the forest. Devahuti, she's actually an avatar of the eternal mother of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was about to leave home to take sannyas, his mother, Sachi Devi, she could feel by her motherly intuition that my only child is going to leave me. How she was crying, begging him to stay. That my husband, Jagannath Mishra, your father, has left for the spiritual world. Your elder brother took sannyas, and he's never been heard from again. You are all I have. You are my whole life. Lord Chaitanya very tenderly, with great love and compassion, explained to her that I incarnated in this world to deliver the suffering fallen people. And I must do this to carry out my mission. But please know we can never be separated, because you are always my mother. When I came as Ram, you were Kausalya. When I came as Vamanadev, you were Aditi. When I came as Prishnigarbha, you were Prishni. When I came as Kapila Dev, you are Devahuti. When I came as Krishna, you are Mother Devaki and Mother Yashoda. And now you have come again to be my mother. We will always be together. So in this beautiful pastime we're reading today, Devahuti, such an exalted person, is speaking on behalf, actually, of all conditioned souls in this world. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was already a self-realized person. But between the two armies of the Kurus and Pandavas in Kurukshetra, he took the role of a person who was confused, bewildered, and very fearful. Karpanya doso bhatasva bhava, and surrendered to Krishna. Please instruct me. And Bhagavad Gita was spoken for the whole world. And in these precious teachings, several chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, of Lord Kapila Dev, it is spoken to his mother, who approached him in great sorrow, calling herself a very conditioned soul. And we find this is the principle of all great souls who approach God. Sanatana Goswami, the most learned person practically in the entire world, so elevated in every way. But he approached Lord Chaitanya as the most fallen, the most ignorant. And I'm so bewildered, although I do not know who I am, what is the purpose of life, why I'm suffering. People call me learned, and I am so shameless I believe them. Please instruct me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu responded, you are fit to be my spiritual master. But this is the nature of a great soul, to inquire in this way. And then he spoke the Sanatan Shiksha in Varanasi for 2 months. 2 months. From sunrise to sunset, he instructed Sanatan Goswami. So that same culture of Vaishnava transaction, guru-disciple, is here where Devahuti is inquiring from Kapila Dev. In this particular verse, Kapila Dev is speaking Sankhya philosophy from the perspective of pure devotional service, prema bhakti. And as Krishna spoke various yoga processes in Bhagavad Gita, Kapila Dev is also instructing. But the purpose and the culmination is unconditional, unmotivated, loving service to the Lord. Bhagavad Gita tells, Bahunam janmanamante jnanamambam papadete vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sadurlava. After many births and many deaths, of acquiring knowledge. When one finally comes to the actual real knowledge, truth, one surrenders to Vasudeva, knowing the Lord to be all there is, the only shelter. Such a great soul is very rare. Daivihe shagunamayi mamaya maya daratyaya mamevamye prapadyante maya meta tarantite. Krishna has created the entire cosmic manifestation. Vedaham samadidani. He knows everything. There's nothing unknown to Krishna. So many people could give their opinions of what the goal of life is, of how to be happy. But Krishna's giving his opinion that the modes of nature are so powerful. And due to being entangled in the web of material modes, sometimes we're happy, and inevitably there will be suffering. Sometimes we're healthy, inevitable disease. Sometimes we're enjoying life, inevitable death to ourselves and all that is dear to us. How to be transcendental to these things? Krishna declares it's actually so difficult, practically impossible, unless one takes shelter of me. One who takes shelter of me can easily cross beyond the entanglements and miseries of material existence. Krishna culminates Bhagavad Gita sarva dharman parityasya mam ekam sharanam braja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyame ma suchaha. Abandon all other processes, all other dharmas, and just surrender to me. When Krishna says abandoned, it doesn't mean we just stop doing. He's giving the understanding that when we actually, sincerely take shelter, surrender, sharanagati, the benefits, the blessings, and the purpose of all other processes of religion and yoga are fulfilled. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, story after story, that same principle is revealed to us in wonderful ways. It's an interesting question. Why? Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amalam Puranam, the topmost of all Vedic literatures. Nigama Kalpataro Galitam Palam. The fruit of all knowledge of all Vedas. In most of the stories, great devotees are in inconceivable difficulties. The Pandavas, it's not that they just inherited a nice kingdom and enjoyed. Exile, death threats, attempts for their life, complete propaganda to blaspheme them by the rulers of the world. And yet they took shelter of Krishna. That is their real detachment. That is their real knowledge. They took shelter of Krishna. And Yudhisthira Maharaj became king. And after Krishna coronated Yudhisthira as king, Kunti Devi was in desperation. Viparashantu tatatva. so many calamities were upon me, because anything my children were suffering, it was in an amplified way affecting me. We had nowhere to go except you. We had no other shelter but your mercy. So we were constantly taking shelter of you. But now everything's nice. Everything's prosperous. We have power. We have popularity. We have all the opulences. Now I'm feeling very worried. How will I take shelter of you? Let these calamities come again so that I can surrender. Who could say such a prayer? Please don't try. Because if you don't have the realization, you might not be able to do it. If we see a beautiful bird flying in the sky, you just can't do it. But Mahajano yena katasapanta. The path of perfection is to follow in the footsteps of the great souls. To understand, to emulate the spirit of Kunti Devi and try to make that like a compass, like a north star that's helping us to pass through all various circumstances of life. And Dhruva Maharaj, that little 5-year-old boy, how broken-hearted he was by the abusive words of his stepmother. And how broken he was, feeling totally betrayed by his own father, who didn't stand up for him. You and me, when we're children, we just kind of run to our bedrooms and cry. But Dhruva, he was so devastated. He didn't run to his bedroom. He left the palace, he left the kingdom, and he went to the deepest, darkest recesses of the forest. When he went crying to his mother, trying to pacify him with her love, she said, "What your stepmother said is true. If you worship the Supreme Lord, that is your only hope." Where is the Lord? The sages say, the sages go to the forest to find him. He went to the forest. And by his sincerity, he met Narada Muni and learned the process of pure bhakti. And ultimately, by surrendering to Krishna, Krishna appeared to him. And little Prahlad, when Hiranyakashipu asked him, "Prahlad, what is the best thing you learned in school?" He knew who his father was. He knew his nature. But Prahlad, he could have said, mathematics, Sanskrit literature. But he said, my dear father, the best thing I learned in school is that people like you who don't take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who are in the bodily concept of life and thinking in terms of I and mine, you are stuck in the bottom of a deep well and you can't get out. You should go to the forest of Vrindavan and take shelter of Krishna. Anyways, his father was very angry. Sent him back to school with the demand that the teachers teach him the right things. And he was so respectful, so kind, so polite. He never argued with anyone. Teachers thought, what a wonderful student. And they brought him back to the father. We're so proud of him. Hiranyakashipu asked, please tell me, O son. He put him on his lap. Prahlad did his Dandavat pranams. And Hiranyakashipu was crying with fatherly affection and lifted his Prahlad and putting on his lap. And it's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Tears were in his eyes in affection, and he was smelling his head. Sannyasis don't know so much about that culture. But it was out of just such intimacy. And he said, oh, Prahlad, oh, my best son, tell me, what have you learned? Prahlad replies, so many beautiful verses. Vatirna Krishna Bharatashvadova, that my father, either by your own efforts or even with the help of others, as long as you're so addicted to this material conceptions of life, you cannot know who Krishna is, the goal of life. You are simply chewing that which has already been chewed. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. And Prahlad Maharaj said, you should follow the 9 processes of devotional service. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, it begins in associating with devotees and always remembering the Lord. And then Prahlad said, he was so happy saying these things, and he was making his father so miserable. He said, my dear father, if you really give up your ignorance, the only path by which one can attain the goal of life of love of Krishna is you must bathe yourself in the dust of the feet of the pure devotees of the Lord. At that point, Hiranyakashipu threw him off his lap, and with such anger, he ordered his army, kill him by any means, kill him. He is my enemy. And Lord Nrsingadev ultimately came because Prahlad took shelter. When Ambarish Maharaj was attacked by the great powerful mystic Yogi, the avatar of Lord Shiva, Durvasa Muni, he just took shelter of Krishna, surrendered. He didn't even do anything. Prahlad didn't do anything either. He just surrendered. We don't see that Prahlad was wrestling with the snakes or trying to do some martial arts against those stabbing him. He was just surrendering to Krishna. And Ambarish was surrendering. He had wife, children, so many worldly responsibilities. Durvasa Muni was the greatest sannyasi with tens and thousands of disciples. And ultimately, Durvasa Muni, after going to Vishnu, please protect me from your chakra. Vishnu said, I cannot protect you. Durvasa Muni was bewildered. How could you not protect me? It is your chakra, under your control. He said, it is not under my control. I'm under the control of my devotees who love me. I am in the hearts of my devotees, and I know no one but them. And my devotees are in my heart, and they know no one but me. I'm helpless. But if you get forgiveness and blessings of Ambarish, then you will be protected. So Srimad Bhagavatam is again and again in every story describing in the context of difficulties how devotees take shelter and how Krishna gives shelter. Yeyatamam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyam mamavat manuvartante manusya bharata sarvasha. According to how one surrenders, I reveal myself. To surrender means to take shelter. Thakur Bhakti Vinod sang in his beautiful song. Maro birako bijo icha tohar nityadasa prati tua adhikar. My dear Nanda Kumar Krishna, if you like, you can protect me. Or if you like, you can kill me. You can do anything you like with me, because I am your servant unconditionally. The same spirit is actually the highest revelation revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ashlisyava padaratam panashlumam. This is in the mood of Sri Radharani at the very culmination of the Shikshastakam. Lord Chaitanya is praying, Krishna, if you like, you can embrace me. If you like, you can trample upon me. Or if it is your wish, you could make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. You have every right to deal with me in any way you like, because I am your servant unconditionally. This is love. How is it possible to have such a state of consciousness? In Shikshastakam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving step by step how we attain this goal of pure, ecstatic, unmotivated love through surrender. Trinadapi suniche nataror ibaseshnuna amanadena kirtaniya sadhani. This is a prerequisite. And it's so difficult. How we need to humble ourselves to learn to be humble, like a blade of grass, forgiving like a tree, tolerant, happy when we're giving respect to others, and not feeling any need or expectation to receive respect. These qualities alone do not make us Krishna conscious. But when we have these qualities and we sincerely take shelter of the holy names of Lord Hare, that is the path of Krishna consciousness. In the culmination of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, still, every day there was, whether it's every day, but often, demons were coming to Vrindavan. It's very fascinating. The Gokula Vrindavan of this world is non-different than the Goloka Vrindavan in the eternal spiritual world. There's no demons there. In Goloka Vrindavan, there's simply ecstatic, ever-increasing, loving relationships and play. But Sukadev Goswami, when he's describing the Vrindavan pastimes, the very culmination of Srimad Bhagavatam, the highest, most intimate and complete loving reciprocation between the Lord and himself and his devotees, and Sri Radha and her devotees. He's describing it in a way where he's giving so much emphasis on so many demons coming. And how in every case the Brajavasis had to take shelter. One day, he says, this baby is crying just at the right time. Haribo. Srila Prabhupada taught us we should learn to cry like the baby. Not cry for Krishna, like the baby's crying for mother. And we see Radha Priti Devi as Krishna's representative, mother. As soon as the baby cried, she picked up the baby into her arms and embraced. And now baby's happy. Similarly, if we cry like that child, Krishna will embrace us and we will be happy. There's actually no other happiness. One day in Bandiravan, one of the 12 forests of Vrindavan, the cowherd boys were playing so many beautiful games with Krishna and Balaramji. In Bandiravan, there's a banyan tree called Bandiravat. Have any of you been there? Please raise hands if you have been to Bandiravat. The same tree is still there, but at the time of Krishna, it was so big. One particular branch was like a bridge that grew from the tree over the entire Yamuna River. And in those days, the Yamuna River was very wide and very full with pure nectarine, ecstatic love of Yamuna Devi flowing. And the cowherd boys, when they would play to cross the river, they would just run across the branch of Bandiravat. So they were so immersed, so absorbed in giving pleasure to Krishna Balaram and receiving the mercy of Krishna Balaram through joking and wrestling and playing. And they were, Belvan is close by, they were using fruits as balls and like that. Being so absorbed, they didn't notice the cows, the goats, the buffaloes, all the animals in their herd. They wandered farther and farther and farther away. They came to a forest very far away. It was called Manjatabi. And there was no grass in the ground, only sharp canes. And they were so hungry, so thirsty. And actually they were completely lost. They didn't know where to go. Nearby, there was a blazing forest fire. That forest fire was coming closer and closer. The cows, the goats, the buffaloes were in such a state of desperation. They were starving for food, starving for water. They were being burnt by the heat of this nearby forest fire. They were utterly exhausted, and they didn't know anywhere to go. They began to cry out to Krishna. Meanwhile, the cowherd boys, they didn't hear. They didn't hear the crying and screaming of the animals. They were just so absorbed in playing. But then they noticed that all the cows, buffaloes and goats were nowhere around. It's their responsibility to protect them, to bring them to fresh grasses so they'll be happy. They were looking everywhere. There was no trace of them. The boys fell into a state of anxiety. Now this is an interesting question, because when we get philosophical about Krishna's pastimes, it's very important to understand the deep conceptions of rasa, or loving relationships and mellows. if you were totally engrossed, directly and personally, in playing with Krishna and Balaram, you're playing flutes together with them, and you're jumping with them, and you're wrestling with them, and you're doing so many things, and you're seeing them. And they're seeing you. Is there a question of being in anxiety? Yes, for the cowherd boys. Because being with Krishna was not for their sense gratification, it was for Krishna's sense gratification. And the highest ecstasy, when you water the root of the tree, naturally every part of the tree gets fully nourished with happiness. They knew how Krishna and Balaram loved their cows and goats and buffaloes. And if they're gone, if they're in any type of danger, that will displease Krishna. Their anxiety was an anxiety of compassion. And Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas describe, as is Srila Prabhupada is telling in this purport today, liberation, mukti, without pure love is incomplete and unsustainable for the eternal soul. Lord